Hi there, I'm Emily Danes and this is my ePortfolio video for English 150. As I'm sitting down to make this video, I'm realizing just how much I've learned since the beginning of the semester about many things, about poetry and literature and about different mediums for storytelling, whether that be through film or graphic novel or what have you, but especially about video editing. I really had no experience at all with video editing, so needless to say I've learned a lot since the beginning of the semester. In this video, I decided to focus on the ePortfolio materials and process because that's where I think I've grown the most over the course of the semester. But before I talk about my ePoetry experience, I just want to focus on my ePoem essay. I really did enjoy writing the poetry essay, and I have to admit from the beginning it was the assignment I was most excited about. So I knew it would be important to find a poem that I really wanted to write about, so I spent a fair amount of time finding one that I was really moved by and that was substantial enough to write 5 inspired pages about. So I actually just asked a friend for recommendations, and she mentioned W.H. Auden. I looked him up and came across this poem, and actually the first read through I hated it. It just seemed kind of strange and dissonant, and it didn't really sound good to me. I didn't know what it meant, so I started doing a little more research to figure out what it was really about, and the more I read, the more interested I became, and before I knew it, the 5 pages just kind of came together on their own. One of the things I've really loved about this class is that we are given the freedom to choose materials that inspire us to create something, whether it be an essay or a video, that we really are passionate about. I knew my being passionate about Auden's poem made it a lot easier for me to engage with it and to write a good essay about it. So I definitely wanted to find a poem for my ePoetry video that I really would be excited to spend a whole semester with. I was initially pretty intimidated by the technological component of this class, so it definitely helped me to ease into the video making by writing an essay. I'm used to writing essays, and I know what I need to do to start drafting an essay. It's always kind of the same process. I just go into a Google Doc, get my thoughts down, end up cutting half of it, and later organizing it, editing, whatnot, into what becomes the final essay. So I decided to use the same kind of method when I was working on my video assignments. I would essentially write a rough script in almost the same structure that I would an essay, and I found this approach made me a lot more comfortable with the technological component of this class. And by writing out an outline before I actually recorded the walkthrough videos, I was able to organize my thoughts and make sure I didn't leave any important points out. So with the exception of the ePoem itself, I found it was helpful for me to organize all of my walkthroughs and the film review in the same way that I would an essay. As I was working with Camtasia and looking at my classmates' ePoems, I found that screen presentations of literature really do invite the reader to rethink the nature of literature by offering a different experience of language. I also agree with the author of this book called Why Study Literature that one must bring to multimedia presentation an implicit understanding of the operations of literary discourse. So while I didn't have any experience with making videos, I had plenty of experience writing essays. So I used my knowledge of language and of essay writing to orient myself in terms of presenting materials in a new video format instead of on paper. It did seem a little bit tedious at first, but I found that making the walkthrough videos was actually really helpful for me because it made me critically analyze my own work and think about why I used the materials I did. Before I made my walkthrough video for my ePoem, I really just put these images together in a way that seemed to work. I used these materials because they were aesthetically pleasing and because they just seemed to make sense somehow. Actually, researcher Matthew Davis from Florida State University found that many of his students' multimedia work was patterned but not determined. I knew that I focused on the aesthetic and the physical appeal of my project, but I didn't think as much about why exactly I chose certain materials over others. And it wasn't until I made these walkthrough videos that I actually realized why they made sense. I was able to identify commonalities in a lot of the material I'd been using, and was able to strengthen later revisions with more meaningful imagery as a result. As Linda D. LeBou puts it in her article, From Writing Workshop to Multimedia Workshop, Reflecting on the process of learning creates an awareness of the multiple sources and modes of information an author can combine to express her ideas. So taking time to reflect on these materials and to think about why I use them helped me to choose materials more deliberately when I was constructing revisions on my e-poem. For example, when I was making my citations video and thinking about why I used the images I did, I realized that many of the images I'd already used were either really busy and representative of the chaos and complexity of human life, or they were more still and introspective, which to me encouraged the viewer to reflect on their own lives and to try to see them in perspective. So once I really articulated why I'd chosen certain images and why they worked well, I was able to substitute a few images that didn't work as well with ones that I thought better achieved the tone I was going for. So in my original video, I included this shot of a man having his picture drawn and this man cutting something out of a piece of paper. And when I watched this video, after really thinking about the message I was trying to convey, I just felt like these shots weren't working as well as some others. So I decided to replace the whole section with some clips I found in this People of Russia video. So in the final version, I included these shots of a couple sitting together on a park bench, and a woman in the park with her child, and a man on vacation looking at a map. At first, I wouldn't have thought these images were any more effective than the ones I'd already used, but I think I'm definitely more happy with the final project after just taking some time to reflect and revise the original piece. So one of the main things I've learned this semester is just how important this revision process is. Often as students, we work for a few weeks on a project or a presentation or whatever the case may be, and then turn it in and never think about it again. In this class, I was really challenged to keep returning to old work and making it even better, and I think that fully engaging in this revision process has really paid off and has improved the overall quality of my work. So I think that about wraps it up. Thank you for bearing with me on this long video, and I hope you enjoyed.